Thank you for staying with us for the news review. We have as our guest Dr. Kwame Asah-Asante, who is with the Center for European Studies, head of the Center for European Studies at the University of Ghana, also a political scientist. Doc, a very good morning to you, sir.
Ben.
You sound a little tired. I know since we come to you here on Saturday, it was quite a day, but you stood with us. You had to, grab a bite and all of that, get some rest, but you stood with us. We're very grateful that you took that time with us.
Always at your service. Always at your service.
Great. We've not spoken since the aftermath of, the National Delegates Conference. So I'll start from there because that was our very last interaction. How do you feel things panned out for the MPP in this latest conference with the new faces we're seeing? Of course, Stephen Ayesu's team, there was going to be a Stephen anyway. And then we have JFK for the general secretaryship position. The vice president has said that he is going to work with all of these officials and so have other losers as well. What is your quick reflection on what happened on Saturday leading into Sunday?
Yeah, as we all witnessed, the election went on very well. It was well organized. Little problems here and there, but we can, gloss over that. But all in all, it went well. In terms of the executive, we saw the old order changes where you have only few people in. And for me, that is refreshing because if they had maintained the old order, NDC would have just smiled, because that was the war machine they used in 2020, and it produced 137 in Parliament. So with Intim coming in and a new scribe with the organizing secretaries, they are good to go. The blend is good in the sense that there are now fresh energies that are going to be injected into the system. And then you have a leader who's a chairman, who's experienced, and he's going to be the focus around which all the party machinery will revolve. Given his experience as a chairman, I know that he should be able to work very well with his team, and then with a shared vision of whoever emerges as a flag bearer, they are supposed to work extremely well and then get themselves battle ready for 2024.
And you feel that with the current crop of executive members, they're going to basically be more of an impediment to the opposition NDC, right?
That is a difficult question to answer.
Well, I'm only premising that on what you said, that the NDC would have smiled if they had seen that the old guard, as you mentioned, had been retained wholesale. But now that we've seen some changes, you're saying, the NDC will not necessarily be smiling, which must intimate that then this crop of leaders could actually be what the MPP needs to break the 8.
The team is solid, there's no doubt about that. But it goes beyond the team. There are a lot of factors that will come to play. The economy must be fixed because that influences voter choices. And out of the economy, then you are able to address issues of unemployment, which is also another factor that voters consider, employment conditions. Out of the economy, you can build infrastructure, which is a critical index of voter choices. So it's not only the team, but other factors also come to play. And that is why I'm not able to give you a definite answer, because if you are not able to manage these ones well, NDC will have a field day.
Right. Let's move from there, but stay with leadership, Dr. Asah-Asante, because the latest Afrobarometer report intimates that 87% of respondents feel Ghana is headed in the wrong direction. Only about 11% feel the country is on the right trajectory. There's also an 85% quantum who feel the economy is performing fairly bad or very bad. 85% of those sampled feel that the economy is not headed in the right direction. It's a big story we're dealing with this morning, but I'd like to run it by you. What is your thinking on this? Because guess what? The 87% is a 24 percentage point. That is the 87% saying the country is headed in the wrong direction, is a 24 percentage point increment since 2019. When it comes to their views on the economy as well, the 85% who feel the country's economy is in, the quagmire, that is also a 62% upward trajectory from 2019. That makes for stark reading. Your thoughts?
Yes, there's no doubt that this is a true reflection of the situation on the ground, and the survey has captured exactly so. Because you and I cannot deny the fact that we are in hard times. The economic condition is not favorable, and that has been expressed clearly in the survey. Then the wrong direction. Yes, it depends upon their perspectives, because when they look at certain things, then you can agree with them. If you look at, the mandate that is given to the president, and then the promises that the party gave and all that, is that what we are seeing? The president promised us that he will, manage the public purse. We are seeing a different story, in the sense that corruption is still, very high. If you compare it to the NDC managed corruption far better, and the Transparency International report is an evidence to this. If you look at the waste in the system, we're still grappling with that. It has not been managed extremely well. If you look at even priority programs and projects, you realize that we are just beating about the bush. Very little emphasis on our real priority areas. And then if you look at even the focus and direction of the country, you realize that we have a little difficulty. So I share in that opinion that there is a lot to be done if the government really want to break the eight. Yeah.
Let's get into the newspapers, Doc, starting with the Daily Graphic now. Nkrumah Mausoleum undergoes expansion. Tourism Minister cuts sought for modernization, and work has commenced on the rehabilitation and modernization of the Kwame Nkrumah Memorial Park in Accra, expected to be completed in 9 months. The $3 million project entails the building of a new presidential library, a training center, a new restaurant, and VVIP lounge. Others are an artistic freedom wall and music and light fountain to boost night tourism at the park. Funding for the rehabilitation was provided by the World Bank under the Ghana Tourism Development Project. But as we stay on this, I would like to know what your take is on this. But a related matter, Asumdwe Park, where we left our former president, the professor, Atta Mills. And yeah, it's stirred the hornet's nest in recent times. Supposedly, there's some renovation going on there, and allegedly by the Atta Mills family. Yesterday we heard from Samuel Atta Mills, brother to the late former president, chastising Koku Anyidoho, formerly of the NDC. I say formerly because he's been expunged from the books of the party, that he is doing everything to, spite the family. That how can you do these things without performing the rituals required? They suggest that maybe the body of the former president had been moved, and they are also vexed at the president for allowing an unrecognized group, a group not recognized by the family, not recognized by the NDC, of doing whatever renovation it may be without their consent. How do you feel about that matter? Yesterday, I heard Samuel Atta Mills refer to Koku Anyidoho as a buffoon. Koku Anyidoho came back and also called him a hypocrite and other things, and that he would never, he together with John Mahama would never set foot at the Asumdwe Park. A whole convoluted mess. How do you feel about that situation?
I'm so surprised that we are working on the mausoleum without the knowledge of Mills's family.
So the
It's unfair to
mausoleum,
the.
the mausoleum is Nkrumah, but
Oh,
I'm
sorry,
tying it. I'm tying it into
Asumdie
the
Park.
Asumdie part. Right,
That's
right.
it's very unfair that you are working with the Asumdie Park without the knowledge of the family. I mean, for Christ's sake, Mills is the president of Ghana, but he belongs to a family. And that family respect must be there, where, if anything, they must be known. We have seen rest places of such people and all that. And then families play a very important role there. So for me, I don't think it's a fair treatment to the family at all. Whoever is in charge should be able to call in the family so that they can assist in the process. It's very, very unfair because as Africans and Ghanaians, we hold dear to our hearts our ancestors, our departed relatives, and that we don't want anybody who is not a member of the family to tamper with anything that relates to the dead. It's something that we cherish so much. I believe strongly that they have not been fair to the family.
What would be your advice to the former Deputy General Secretary of the party then, Kwaku Anyidaho? Because mind you, he had a group that he called the, Atta Mills Foundation and all of that. It's not recognized by the family because guess what? The NDC sometime, I think last year, also came up with a similar foundation, which is the recognized foundation. Kwaku Anyidaho has been pursuing this matter. He alleges that, he calls on Samuel Atta Mills, for example, to produce the autopsy report of the former president on the basis of his death. He's been making a lot of allegations and all of that. What would you suggest to Kwaku Anyidaho in the midst of this? Because obviously, he has neither the support of Atta Mills' family nor that of the NDC, from which he's been expelled. So it's a bit of a tricky situation. What would be your candid advice to him?
I think that, yes, as much as he has been with Mills, he's been associated with Mills for a very long time or that. Now that Mills is gone, I think he should allow his family to handle these things. He can have his, center or whatever you want to call it. But for the family must be in charge, of course, in conjunction with government regarding where the rest place of the former president. I think Mr. Anyidaho must be advised in that direction because it's unfair that the family will not get opportunity to have to, as it were, know what is going on. It's very, very unfair because in certain ethnic groups and all that, you'll be hauled before the palace to come and answer questions on that. So I'm not sure that you want to go on that tangent. I think he has played his role. He has served his master very well, and the whole world recognizes that. But this one, he should allow the family and government to know exactly what they want to do. I think that is fair to the family.
Let's take a batch of stories from the Daily Graphic and sew it up nicely. Page 13, equipment for visas on arrival ready. That's according to Foreign Minister Shirley Ayoko Botchwey. And the Ghana Immigration Service has taken delivery of equipment to enable the country to deliver a new high-quality visa system. The equipment, some of which are also being installed at missions abroad, include 3 visa issuing stations, a server and visa stickers, which will enable the country to prepare towards the issuance of electronic visas on arrival. The visa stations and the server will be installed at the Kotoka International Airport and the GIS Data Center, respectively, by the close of the week. That's the first story. The other one, Ghana to sit 2022 WASI alone. We like to use write exams, but I think it's better to say sit an exam. Only Ghanaian candidates are left to sit the West African Senior High School Certificate Examination scheduled from August 1st to September 27, 2022. This is because the other 4 member countries of the West African Examinations Council, that is Nigeria, Liberia, Sierra Leone, and the Gambia, have returned to the May-June calendar and had administered the WASI for their school candidates from May 9 to June 24 this year. The 4 countries have had their academic calendars streamlined to enable them sit the examination in May-June as Ghana sticks to the new normal calendar occasion by the COVID-19 pandemic in 2020. I don't know what this means for you, Doc, because Ghanaian candidates will still compete for the National Distinction Award and the WAEC Excellence Awards with candidates from those countries, but it means that we're basically extricating ourselves from that system. Prudent move? This only arrived on the back of COVID, so should we stick to it?
I'm sure the decision is based on sound reasoning. I will grant that to the ministry. Maybe they've reflected on that, and then they are in that firm conclusion that this is the way to go. If that is done involving all the stakeholders, and this is the decision that comes out of that, I am for it. But if it's something that it was an ad hoc situation or decision, then the time has come for them to take a second look at the issue and then make a different determination. Other than that, if it's born out of excessive consultation among stakeholders, then I think it's in line with normal practice. I'm for it.
Let's look at some stories in the middle spread, and it will be a wrap for us in the Daily Graphic. Collaborate to tell African story better. That's the editor of the Graphic group, the editor graphic, that is Kobi Asma, a call that I wholly support because the African story has not really been told. You speak to a lot of young people today, 20s, 30s, and they know practically nothing about our real history in the context of what we have achieved as Africans. In the past, you ask anybody about Mansa Musa and they would have precious little to tell you. The different empires, Songhai, Mali, Ghana, and all of that. We don't know our roots. Some don't even know the meaning of Ghana. The Ghana that we bear, we don't know the meaning of it. So important points to be made. Human trafficking conviction records improve. That's according to the Gender Ministry. But I want you to focus a bit on this, this story on page 17. Inadequate budgetary allocation forces crew to demand money. CEO of the National Ambulance Service tells committee. I'm sure you followed that story in recent times about a pregnant woman and all of that. Now, the CEO of the National Ambulance Service, Professor Ahmed Nuhu Zakaria, has admitted to the Special Committee of Parliament investigating the death of a pregnant woman in a national ambulance that the crew had to demand money for fuel due to the inadequate budgetary allocation from government. And the point he makes is that a lot of the time they are fueled for accident-related cases. And so if you come with something of this nature, you have to cough up the money in the 21st century. Dr. Assassin.
I think we are not doing well at all. Professor Zakaria must look at it again.
But what can he realistically do? He is one person, he is in charge. He has been a long-standing head of the National Ambulance Service. If he comes to say this, it must mean that it is a long-standing problem. And what can he do? Can he fork out money out of his pocket? He can't. So...
No, I share in his pain. But what I'm saying is that we must look at it as a state and then help the situation. Otherwise, all the beautiful things that the president has done with regard to the ambulance service, which is a great contribution the president did for this country, will come to naught if we don't have a certain contingency fund that we can rely on in matters of this nature or in situations of this nature. We need to have a contingency fund for such cases. Otherwise, we are going to have a lot of problems on our hands from time to time. But I'm not sure that's the vision of the president with regard to the provision of these ambulances. It has really served the state very well, and I applaud the president for that. But I believe that the authorities must support Professor Zakaria to be able to deliver on the promise of the president. Yes.
The Ghanaian Times newspaper now, and restoring status of Kwame Nkrumah Memorial Park. Government earmarks $3 million for rehabilitation to boost tourism and create jobs. Ghana rescues 831 human trafficking irregular migration victims in 2021. That's according to Dr. Afisa Zakaria. And new site for nuclear power plant to be named soon. That's according to a deputy energy minister. Let's look at the story on page 17. So Ghana rescues 831 human trafficking irregular migration victims 2021. About 831 victims of human trafficking and irregular migration were rescued by law enforcement officers in 2021. Within that same period, 32 cases of human trafficking and irregular migration were prosecuted, resulting in the convictions of 13 for human trafficking, 9 for child labor, and 10 for other related offenses. The Chief Director of the Ministry of Gender, Children and Social Protection, Dr. Afisa Zakaria, who disclosed this, said in all, 87 cases were reported and investigated by law enforcement agencies and called on stakeholders to work together to curb the menace. I want you to look at that, the work of the gender ministry, of course, going on still without Sarah Adjwasafo, but also to look at the external context. So these are internal contexts. You know, in recent times, what happened to some Ghanaians in Gambia many years back, and the supposed reparation of about $600,000 that have not been paid. Some have been saying government should pursue that. What is your take on these?
I believe that the government must go into that case and let us get to the finish line so that we can put that one behind us. But this issue of human trafficking is becoming one too many. Within the sub-region, we are gradually becoming notorious for such ungodly activities. And it's about time we stood our grounds and deal with this thing head on. I am happy that in spite of the difficulties, the challenges and all that resource constraint, our security agencies and the ministries have worked very well. But we need to support them. Government must support them so that they continue the fight. My good friend Anas also did a great job with regard to that. And the police have been very instrumental and very helpful in this direction. We need more resources for them to be able to fight this battle because it doesn't speak well of us. I'll end with this by looking at the history, the African history thing you talk about, which I think is an important one. You see, history is an important subject and it helps us to identify ourselves and a host of other things. If you look at this government, the syllabus that government put in place for class 1 to classes, very beautiful history. I don't know whether you've got opportunity to look at it. Very beautiful. But it's unfortunate that the books have not come out. And I'm wondering, why is it taking them such a long time? Because if you look at the content, my brother, I read history, great one. It's something that will stand the test of time and is able to articulate clearly how we have arrived here from where we come from. So I applaud those who championed our cause that history must be taught and taught very well so that people will know their real identities. It is very important if you want to build a nation.
Oh, and just because you made mention of that, I might as well indicate, because I was asking everybody whether we all knew what Ghana meant. It refers to the warrior king, and that is how great the name is that we carry, Ghana. But have we lived up to that name? That's another story. On page 4, government to announce site for nuclear power plant, according to a deputy energy minister. And the government will soon announce a site and vendor for the development of a nuclear power plant. The deputy minister of energy, Mr. William Oreku Edu, has hinted. According to him, the Nuclear Power Ghana, NPG, has submitted a report on 4 sites along the coast and about 5 vendors after feasibility assessment to cabinet for review and approval. But let's take a quick look at the international front. African nations meet on critical nature conservation, and delegates from across Africa launched on Monday the first continent-wide gathering about the role of protected areas in ensuring the future of our planet in Rwanda. The IUCN Africa Protected Areas Congress was being held just a few months before the COP15 summit in December, when global leaders were aiming to adopt a much-delayed pact that is to shield nature from the damage wrought by human activity. But tied to that, Doc, half of Somalia's population is hungry. Now, this is not a novelty when it comes to Somalia, but it's severe. The worst drought in 4 decades was raging through the Horn of Africa. The World Food Programme said up to 20 million people in Kenya, Ethiopia, and Somalia were at risk of starvation by the end of the year. Now, Somalia is bearing the brunt, with half of the population now hungry. Hundreds of thousands of people are abandoning their homes in rural Somalia and heading to camps for the internally displaced. So, like I said, in areas like Sudan, Somalia, the situation, even parts of Ethiopia, the situation hasn't been good over the years, especially here. But now it appears to have got really bad. Your quick take on these stories as we move to the next newspaper.
Yeah, the problem that you have enumerated are born out of climate conditions where we have not been able to keep the ecosystem very well. Environmental degradation is going on, so your soil lose their fertility, and the rainfall patterns continue to be a problem without correspondent solution from government with regard to irrigation and whatnot. And this had really exacerbated the situation. I believe that going forward, our leaders must take environmental issues seriously, and then also tie it with what? Irrigation programs, and then make agriculture our backbone. I'm surprised that a continent that is the first home of man, which we expect all of us to be, conscious about agriculture, we have thrown it off-board, and we are now suffering. So the little problem that we are in crisis. I believe that we must put emphasis on agriculture. It is the only way to go in line with what maintenance of a clean environment that will sustain agriculture. If we fail to do this, I'm afraid we'll continue to beg for food and other things that should not be the case.
Let's get into other papers very quickly. Daily Guide, JB Killer for mini trial. I'm talking about Danila Siedu, aka Sexy Dondon, as he calls himself. Sunyani Airport ready, and quite a while back we were talking about the state of the airport. Now it is ready, so at least we must make mention of that as well. NPP to upgrade communication, and let's focus on this one. 21 million euros for Swami interchange, and that is interesting. You know, on the back of our latest report on what had happened in Swami, the Swami area with the member of parliament for that area, who is also the majority leader, Oseiche Mensah Bonsu, and Minister for Parliamentary Affairs, being pelted with sachets of pure water and being, attacked, so to speak. This has occurred. And I've seen reactions on social media where people say, well, that is the only language they understand. Buga buga. Your quick thoughts on that?
I believe that, you see, MPs have a very important role to play. They are not only MPs, but they are representatives of their people. And that is why we give them all the support, so that they represent their people, not, by representing their interests, their aspirations, and all that. So from time to time, you visit them, you organize DEBA, and then you inform them about government policies and programs, and then you hear from them at first hand their problems, and you try to address them. As soon as there is a little gap, you see some of these problems. So I'm sure the Honorable Majority Leader has seen the problem. He's so experienced, and he should be able to deal with it. I think there is something wrong, because the people deserve the things that they are asking for. Infrastructure, if you look at the Constitution, it gives you an idea that at least government must make effort so that every portion of this land will have a fair share of the infrastructure development. So it's a critical requirement on part of government, and that when you don't do it, you are not going to suffer the things that the ministers suffered now, but you are going to, for a very long time, have a certain political deficit with regard to that. People decide on election based on that. It is a second important variable that influences voter choices. So it is in the interest of political parties and then MPs to do it and then fix those infrastructure challenges. Otherwise, they will fall on their own dagger.
Let's look at a few more stories. I'm going to lump them together so you can respond to them in batches. Republic Press, TUC boss scoffs at government for choosing cathedral over welfare of workers. I'm talking about Dr. Anthony Yauba, Secretary General of the TUC. There's also JFK forgives Wontumi, and you know why. Wontumi had banded together the chairman of the different regions when it comes to the MPP, urging them to support, and they showed that support for John Bwedu, only to be on the losing side. That's with Republic Press. The Today newspaper, no better particulars, no approval. It has to do with a $1 billion syndicated loan agreement. And the minority, there seems to be some improvement in talks on the syndicated loan, but the minority is digging its heels in, saying if the right things are not done, they will not give their end of the approval. So the TUC boss scoffing at government over pursuing a national cathedral project when people are hungry, and the $1 billion syndicated loan. Quick reactions?
I believe that Parliament, I will start with the last one. Parliament must look at it critically because we are in very difficult times. So over politicization of certain issues, we must take a second look. The issue of the syndicated loan is crucial now. So I believe that Parliament must reflect on it and then give the government a green light. Otherwise, we are likely to have more problems, and I'm not sure that is what they themselves in Parliament want. So I think before they meet again, they should have common ground and should be able to do the needful for the good people of this country. Back to the story of TUC, boss, and then cathedral. I disagree vehemently because, look, cathedral is a good project, but the timing is wrong. We are in difficult times. There are a lot of things that are of priority to us than cathedral. So if the TUC, which is a rep of what? Labor, in terms of their demands, in terms of their needs, in terms of their aspiration, that's the voice of the leader, then it's unfortunate. Because is that what we need now? It's a question I posed to the TUC boss. And that look at the many things that we desire, we need, with regard to what labor, with regard to families, schools, and all that. Is that what we need now? What are the things that really inform that decision that should supersede every other interest? I disagree vehemently. I think it's a misplaced priority, and I'm not expecting the TUC to champion that cause. They should look at things that are of critical importance to us now than this one, which we think that it will serve no purpose at the moment. I'm sorry to say that. I am not for it at all.
Right. In less than a minute, I'd like you to help me with this. That will be the final bit to you. The Daily Statesman, Ghanaians turn to local rice as Southeast Asia export ban affects supply. I've always said we should grow more rice, get more self-sufficient with the grains, but it's not a call that we've heeded, unlike what Nigeria is doing. The other bit is the latest global info analytics in terms of the appeal of the likely candidates from both the MPP and the NDC pegs it this way. Mahama, former President Mahama, leads Bawumia by 58% to 31%, and Alan Chamanting, if he faces off with him, by 61% to 30%, meaning that per the latest survey, it would be a drubbing for either party if they became the reps of the NPP, at least for now. Quick reflections on that.
The last one, interesting observations and then findings. We wait and see because all the two parties are gearing up for a showdown 2024. So they will put up their best candidates, and I believe that those who will be able to study very well voter choices, the needs of the electorate, and then will have a strategy and resources to prosecute the agenda of their manifesto. They will carry the day. So I look for a good fight, 2024, where it's going to be healthy, but driven by issues, issue-driven campaign. That's what I'm looking forward to. And that will be able to, parties will be able to articulate clearly their programs and policies. But I'll end with the issue of the emphasis on local rights. It's long overdue. All right. We sometimes our position is very hypocritical. We shy away from the things that we grow here, rice, and then rely so much on foreign one. When there is a problem, then we are held to ransom. Look at the hypocrisy on our part, where a number of Ghanaian, enjoy wache, which is produced out of local. They use local rice to produce, but when they are looking for some for their homes, they are looking for foreign rice. What kind of hypocrisy is that? Nobody will build our industry for us. We need to build this industry and make it solid. And scientists will tell you that even the local one is more healthy. Why are we shying away from this? We should encourage ourselves, grow what we eat, and eat what we grow.
Tied to that, Abdul Mumin Hamza says, please, we know the country is hungry, but to be honest, food in the north here isn't that costly. It's southern people killing one another as if they don't farm. He also says, Doc is always doing great on all topics with deep thinking. I don't know him, but I started enjoying him since last week. So that's some commendation for you, Doc. Thank you for joining. Dr. Kwame Asah-Asante, Director for the Center for European Studies at the University of Ghana. Up next, we serve you sports on the AM Show.